Hey everyone, and welcome to Tactical Inc., your portal to the captivating realm of all things Lorcana. I'm Alex.
And I'm Bradley. Today we're going to be discussing cards that got better and the cards that got worse due to the release of Ursula's return. We will then discuss cards that we believe will get better with the release of future sets.
These are not the only cards that got better, worse, or that could improve, but they're just a few of them that we wanted to highlight.
With that out of the way, let's look at what's improved. Alex, what Amber card in your opinion got better after release of Ursula's return?
Well, one card that's always been good that I just see improving a lot in this set is Ariel Spectacular Singer. And Ariel is a 3-cost Amber character who is inkable. She has 2 strength and 3 willpower with 1 lore, and she has Singer 5, so she can sing songs of cost 5 or less for free. And she has the ability Musical Debut, which of course says when you play this character you can look at the top 4 cards of your deck, reveal a song card, and put it in your hand, then put the rest on the bottom of your deck. She's been pivotal in Steel Song especially, but she could be good in a lot of decks that are searching for songs, and this could come into play now with something like Amber Emerald, using songs like We Don't Talk About Bruno, or even some of the Sing Together songs like Under the Sea, or Look at This Family, or even in different colors, something like the Mob Song with Steel Song. There's just a lot of options with Ariel to find the songs that you're wanting, where we're getting a lot of bigger songs now that can be really powerful.
Yeah, and I feel like Ariel Singing Mermaid is another card that has released in this set, and it may want you to, it may make you think twice about running Ariel Spectacular Singer, but in my opinion, this card is still better. It can help you get a song, and as far as songs that cost more than 5 that Ariel Spectacular Singer can't sing, there's very few. So I think running Ariel Spectacular Singer is just better in my opinion.
Yeah, she's great for tempo as far as on turn 3, and then another thing that is really good with her is that we have the new card Ariel Sonic Warrior that's just a perfect shift on turn 4 right after you've played this Ariel.
Alright, moving on to Amethyst. The card that I chose that I felt improved this set was Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. Mickey Mouse is a 4-cost inkable character that has 3 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore. He is a Dreamborn and Sorcerer with 2 effects. The first one is called Animate Broom, and it says you pay 1 less ink to play broom characters. And his second effect, Ceaseless Worker. When one of your broom characters is banished in a challenge, you may return that card to your hand. So Ursula's return has introduced us to 4 new brooms this set. Those being Brigade Commander, Illuminary Keeper, Lively Sweeper, and Aerial Cleaner. We also got 2 cards that help support brooms this set. One being Yen Sid, Powerful Sorcerer, and Mickey Mouse, Playful Sorcerer. So it's pretty obvious that this set has increased the power of Mickey Mouse Wayward Sorcerer. Not only that, 2 of these brooms introduced this set are arguably better than any others released in the past sets. Those 2 being Illuminary Keeper and Aerial Cleaner. And it's possible now to create an actual broom deck. Now, will it be top of the meta? I don't think so yet. However, the more cards they release that supports this theme, the more you'll see its power grow.
Yeah, and being able to use Mickey's first effect, Animate Broom, to really flood the field with the brooms in your deck can be super helpful, especially when Yen Sid and Mickey Mouse Playful Sorcerer both are based on how many brooms you have in play. Yen Sid will get you more lore for having at least 2 brooms, and Mickey Mouse will deal more damage based on how many brooms you've got. So this Mickey Mouse being able to get your brooms in cheaper and just really flood the field is going to be a really important part of that deck. Moving on to Emerald, a card that I see getting better in this set is Bucky Squirrel Squeaks Tutor. He is a 2-cost Emerald character who is inkable. He has 1 strength and 1 willpower. He does have Ward, and he has 1 lore, and the ability Squeak, which says whenever you play a Floodborn character, each opponent chooses and discards a card. So Bucky has been up for debate for a long time, whether you use him in discard style decks or whether you cut him out. In the last set, Into the Inklands, it seemed like the success was working better without Bucky in the deck, just using other methods for discard. But I believe that's all changed thanks to a lot of the new shift options and the new shift mechanic where you can get these characters out way easier. One of the main ones that is going to make Bucky so good is Diablo Devoted Herald, because on turn 1 you could play your shift option for Diablo, which is Diablo Maleficent Spy. You'll be able to go ahead and take a look at your opponent's hand, by the way, which is really great, as you can see if they've got some sort of option to get rid of your Diablo, if it's even worth playing him. And then immediately on turn 2, play Bucky and the Diablo Floodborn, so that your opponent has to discard a card and then Diablo can be exerted for his effect. But besides that, there's just a lot of other Floodborns that can really work great with Bucky in the early game, so that you're discarding your opponent's hand while they still have a lot of cards in their hand.
Moving on to Ruby, we have Shere Khan, Menacing Predator. Shere Khan is a 3-cost character that is inkable and has 3 strength and 3 willpower with 1 lore. He is a Storyborn and villain with the effect name, Don't Insult My Intelligence. Whenever one of your characters challenges another character, gain 1 lore. So we've seen several cards release this set that just increases Shere Khan's options of gaining more and more lore. Goofy Super Goof is probably one of the better ones, because when he challenges, he gains you 2 lore already. So when Shere Khan is added to that, he'll make it 3 lore immediately. Swing into Action is an Amethyst card that gives a character Rush for just 1 ink, allowing a character that wouldn't normally be able to challenge their first turn to challenge and get 1 lore from Shere Khan. You can even play it on Shere Khan himself to give him Rush and challenge first turn to gain this lore. Hercules, Daring Demigod is another good example released this set. A 1 extra strength of Maui Hero to All who has Rush. Mulan Elite Archer is another card that we are seeing played whose effect activates when challenging, which could deal damage to characters and activate Shere Khan's ability. Donald Duck Buccaneer activates when you challenge, gaining you bundles of lore. And the location Thebes wants your characters to challenge, just giving Shere Khan more and more ways to pop off. His power keeps increasing, and it will be interesting to see how much he'll be used in the meta.
Ruby is definitely turning into the color that's all about challenging. We've gotten just a lot more of that with this set. And just a couple more examples. If you're running a deck with a lot of items, like Ruby Sapphire, which is one of the better decks right now, there's some really good new items to pair in here with Shere Khan as well, such as Imperial Proclamation, Medallion Weights, and Vitalosphere, which they all 3 give you either some extra strength or some extra bonuses while challenging, which definitely makes it worth considering running Shere Khan in any Ruby deck that you might play. And then on to Sapphire, the card that I see improving here is one that was already great, and that's Lucky Dime. Lucky Dime is a 7-cost Sapphire item that is uninkable, and it has one ability, number 1, which says exert this item and pay 2 ink. Choose a character of yours and gain lore equal to their lore value. This card is just so powerful when used in an item deck because it is so fast. It can come into play and on that turn immediately win the game by gaining you 5 or more lore from a character like Belstrange but Special or Tamatoa. And now there's also Aerial Treasure Collector, who is going to be really hard to take out. And she's just really solid with Lucky Dime. And you also just got a lot of new item support, such as Scuttle, Expert on Humans, the Queen Diviner, and the Song Treasures Untold. In case your opponent gets rid of your Lucky Dime, you can bring it back. Overall, if we continue to see item decks and characters like Tamatoa and Aerial Treasure Collector being big players in the meta, I see Lucky Dime being right there with them.
Yeah, and another card that really helps this card as well is Aurora Lore Guardian. She's also a Floodborn, which can come out early and start protecting your items. Her ability basically gives ward to your items. It stops most removal from removing your items such as Lucky Dime. Moving on to Steel, I chose Musketeer Tabard. This is a 4-cost uninkable item card with the effect all for one and one for all. Whenever one of your characters with bodyguard is banished, you may draw a card. We got several new bodyguard characters in this set, including some of the musketeers and other cards such as Prince Eric's Seafaring Prince, who will be very useful, being Amber's Hercules True Hero. Now, there are a few things that keeps this card from seeing play. And number one, it's pretty slow. Two, it's uninkable. And it also has weaknesses with removal cards such as Hades' Infernal Schemer and Let It Go, whose effects doesn't banish characters, but moves them to your inkwell, so it gets around this card's effect. However, it's still improving just due to the amount of bodyguard support we are getting, and I'm just waiting to see a bodyguard deck to eventually hit the top 8s of the meta. We just aren't there yet.
Yeah, we're definitely getting closer to bodyguards being able to see a lot more play. This new bodyguard Minnie Mouse Musketeer Champion could be really good when we start seeing characters with a lot higher strength for her to banish. You've got the Goofy Musketeer Swordsman that can ready over and over when you play bodyguards, which is helpful. And you've also got Fortisphere, which could turn any of your characters into a bodyguard. So if you play this with Musketeer Tabard, and then you're using Fortisphere to give one of your characters bodyguard and then they get banished, that draws you a card off Musketeer Tabard when you need it. Overall, I could see this card being used as we continue to get more bodyguards. So moving on to our next section, we're going to talk about the cards that were playable, but since Ursula's Return is released, you may not see them around as often as before. And the first one we'll look at is in Amber, that is Rapunzel gifted with healing. So Rapunzel is a 4-cost Amber character who is inkable. She has 1 strength and 5 willpower, and she has 2 lore. And she has the ability Gleam and Glow, which says when you play this character, remove up to 3 damage from one of your characters. Draw a card for each 1 damage removed this way. This has been Amber's go-to from the very beginning for card draw. She's a really good card who can easily draw you 3 cards pretty often. However, one of the main reasons you may not see her as often now is that we have a similar choice in Julieta Madrigal, who comes out a turn earlier. And that's really important with characters like Mother Gothel, Withered and Wicked, or someone like Mulan, Injured Soldier. Some of these characters that come into play damaged on the first 2 turns, Julieta can heal them on turn 3 rather than waiting an extra turn with Rapunzel. And that will just be really important, so Rapunzel may not always make the cut anymore. You've also got this new item, which I don't think is going to see a lot of play, which is Vision Slab. However, if you really do need to tech out against all this healing, Vision Slab is a choice in Emerald that can stop characters from being healed, and that really works against Rapunzel.
Yeah, and we're also getting a lot of other great 4-cost cards. You know, if you are going to run Ariel Singing Mermaid, or you're going to run Daisy Duck Musketeer Spy, you may be thinking about your ink curve here, and you may not have another slot for another 4-drop like Rapunzel. However, she's still a great card, but yeah, she has just got knocked down just a little bit. So moving on to Amethyst, I chose Pascal, Rapunzel's companion. Pascal is a 1-cost inkable character with 1 strength, 1 willpower, and 1 lore. He is a Storyborn and ally with the effect Camouflage. It says, while you have another character in play, this character gains evasive. So don't get me wrong, Pascal can still be a great card. He just got 1-upped on with the release of Pegasus Gift for Hercules. Unlike Pascal needing another character to have evasive, Pegasus already has evasive with the same exact stats. Also, Pegasus has a Floodborn to shift onto. Pegasus Cloud Racer, which is a card that is doing great actually in the early meta. You can play both of these cards, but if you are running Amethyst Emerald and have a choice to take one of them out, probably be ditching Pascal instead.
Yeah, Amethyst Emerald seems like the best aggro choice to me at the moment. If there ends up being something like Amber Amethyst that comes back into play, then you might see Pascal. However, if you're running Amethyst Emerald, I just don't know if he's going to make it anymore. Pegasus is just better. And when we're looking at some 1-drops, one that is questionable as to whether it got better or worse, but I believe could be argued to have gotten a little bit worse, is Cursed Merfolk. Now this is one of the best 1-drops in the game. It is a 1-cost emerald character that is uninkable. It has 0 strength and 1 willpower with 2 lore, and the ability Poor Souls, which says whenever this character is challenged, each opponent chooses and discards a card. So any 1 ink character with 2 lore is going to be a really big threat in the early game to get you ahead of your opponent. And Cursed Merfolk does that with the added ability of potentially making your opponent discard a card, which is great. The thing is, Emerald didn't really have a lot of weaknesses come up in this set. There's nothing really that's gone bad for it. It's only gotten better. The thing that I would argue with Cursed Merfolk is its low strength, which is going to get taken out by a lot of new threats, such as Sisu, Daring Visitor, Sisu, Empowered Sibling, Brawl, and Under the Sea, which are all new cards that punish you for having a character with very low strength, and that's what Cursed Merfolk is. That will just get rid of it very quickly, and honestly, it may not be worth the uninkable slot anymore at times.
Moving on to Ruby, I chose Lady Tremaine, Imperious Queen. Lady Tremaine is a 6-cost character that is uninkable, with 3 strength, 4 willpower, and 2 lore. She is a Floodborn, Villain, and Queen, with Shift 4. So you may pay 4 ink to play this card on top of one of your other characters named Lady Tremaine. Her effect is called Power to Rule at Last. When you play this character, each opponent chooses and banishes one of their characters. Lady Tremaine went from a staple in Rise of the Floodborn to being brought down by Madame Medusa in the last set, and now even more due to Be King Undisputed in this set. And Be King Undisputed is an action song that has Lady Tremaine's effect written right on it. And since it's a song, it can be played for free. And playing cards for free can really give you a huge advantage. Now, it remains to be seen how much people will run Be King Undisputed over Lady Tremaine, because not only is she a 3/4 body with 2 lore, but she also can avoid cards that have been very common in the meta, like Ursula Deceiver and Bare Necessities. Now, Be King Undisputed also has cards like Ursula Sea Witch King that can also prevent songs from being used for free. So we'll see how much of a dip this card takes, but it's looking like it may take a huge hit.
Yeah, the argument between this card and the song Be King Undisputed, I just think having something that can come out in the earlier game and could even come out for free if you sing it with somebody that's a 4-cost, something like Hiram Flaversham that you always see paired up with Ruby, that can just make such a difference versus having to wait till turn 6, which is when you're probably going to play Madame Medusa over Lady Tremaine anyway. I just see her kind of falling off the map here. And then when we go on to what's gotten worse in Sapphire, something that I see having gotten worse is McDuck Manor. Now this is a 4-cost location in Sapphire. It is inkable, and it has a move cost of 1, a willpower of 9, and it gains you 2 passive lore. It doesn't have any other effects than that, but having that 9 willpower and 2 lore has in the past proven to be a big threat. But even as the meta in the past set moved on, we saw people moving away from McDuck Manor and focusing more on their item strategies and things like that are just honestly more powerful and more threatening. And I think the same thing's going to be true in Ursula's return. Sapphire is just not really focused on locations other than Triton, but I don't see Triton being a big deal right now. And we're also seeing a big push for characters to have more strength, because for one thing, characters with low strength are getting banished all over the place. And there's just a lot of new support to give your characters more strength. Cards like Vitalis Sphere, Medallion Weights, and so on that can give your characters a good challenging power to take out McDuck Manor or something similar. I just don't see it being something that you want to include nearly as much as you did in the past.
Moving on to Steel, I chose Fire the Cannons. This is an action card that costs 1 ink and is uninkable, and its effect says deal 2 damage to chosen character. So this is something very interesting to see, that this card go from a staple in the first chapter to just progressively getting worse and worse every set. And in my opinion, Triton's Decree is better because it makes your opponent choose the target. In early game, that means it can get around some ward characters. Now you may make the argument that Fire the Cannons is better late game, but honestly, late game, I don't believe either of these cards are just powerful enough to get the job done. And It's also uninkable, so there isn't many spots to put it into a deck. Now that being said, we are seeing a lot more cards that love damage, like Bell Accomplished Mystic, Prince Philip Vanquisher of Foes, who banishes all opposing characters with damage. We're also seeing several characters with 2 willpower that are annoying to see early on in the game, such as Curse Merfolk that we just spoke of, and the new card Diablo Devoted Herald. However, I believe there are several better options than Fire the Cannons to support these cards, such as Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy, and Grab Your Swords that can damage multiple characters at a time.
Yeah, I'd agree with everything that you just said about this card. The only thing that I think could really keep this being a strong contender right now is if Diablo Devoted Herald is such a big threat that you just have to have an answer for it in the first couple turns, because this will do it. This is your one way to be able to get rid of him before he draws your opponent way too many cards. Alright, so that brings us to our last section, which is what may improve. In this section, we'll talk about the cards that we think are going to get better as new sets release later on this year. And the first one for Amber that I chose is Mickey Mouse Musketeer Captain. Mickey Mouse is a 7 ink Amber character who is uninkable. He has 3 strength and 6 willpower. He has 2 lore with shift 5. He has bodyguard and support. And he has the ability Musketeers United, which says when you play this character, if you used shift to play him, you may draw a card for each character with bodyguard that you have in play. Mickey Mouse, like some other cards that we've talked about already, is just going to get better if the bodyguard theme really takes off. I'd like to see this happen, and I'd like to see some really good low-cost Mickey Mouse characters. We've gotten at least one new good one in this set, which is Mickey Mouse Standard Bearer. He's decent. He's off color for Amber, but if you're playing Amber still, he could work well. Overall, I'd like to see some good low-cost Mickey Mouses to help this card improve, and I'd like to see more bodyguard support, because if you play this, you could be drawing a lot of cards and have a really solid bodyguard to stop your opponents from being able to do anything.
There is one issue I see with this card, and that is your bodyguards, you want to protect things, and so they're going to get challenged, and a lot of times they're getting banished. So if you're playing this and you're not running like Lantern or Pluto Friendly Pooch to get this out earlier, he's probably coming on turn 5, and you may not have a lot of bodyguards in play just because your opponent's going to be challenging them and banishing them. But he's still going to get better as time goes on, as there's more bodyguard support coming out in future sets. Next up is Amethyst, and I chose Magica Dispel, the Midas Touch. Magica Dispel is a 7-cost uninkable character with 4 strength and 6 willpower, with no lore. She is a Floodborn, Villain, and Sorcerer with shift 5, so you can pay 5 ink to play this on top of one of your characters named Magica Dispel. She has the ability named All Mine, and it says, when this character quests, gain lore equal to the cost of one of your items in play. So, Magica Dispel is one of those cards that will continue to get better the more item support that is released. And, of course, Ursula's Return probably got the most item support we've seen in any set so far. And I would argue that one of the hardest things to really have this card to pay off right now is that you have to play it late game, or when you have higher cost items, say like when you have Lucky Dime in play to make it count. And besides Lucky Dime, there really isn't any other items that cost 4 or more that are really being played right now to make this card worth playing. That being said, if we get more items that cost a lot like Lucky Dime that are actually good, I can see this card improving over time.
Yeah, to me she definitely seems like one of those cards that's made to be a 1-turn kill or 2-turn kill type of character. And we just don't have much setup for that yet with her. She's too slow and there's not a lot of item options that work with her. If we get some more really good high cost items that could do something to keep her in play to where your opponent's not going to immediately banish her before she comes around the next turn, then we might see her being worth using. And then in Emerald, a card that I could see improving as the sets go on is Hades Double Dealer. Hades is a 4-cost Emerald character who is inkable. He has 3 strength, 3 willpower, and 1 lore, with the ability Here's the Trade-Off, that says exert this character, banish one of your other characters to play a character with the same name as the banished character for free. The thing that's really great about Hades that makes him better than just shifting a character out is you don't have to pay anything to play the character that you want. All you have to do is have a character with the same name. This gets around the limitations of shifting. You could bring out a character like Beast Relentless, who you want to get out quicker. But also, if you just want to get out a character and still have all the ink left to spend on other things, Hades is a really good go-to option. One reason I'm predicting that Hades could see an uptick in play is because I'm kind of betting on that we're going to see some more actual Hades character cards coming out in the next set or two. You look at this card, Hades Meticulous Plotter, that came out in Ursula's Return, and the subtext on it, talking about Ursula and her plans. It makes it sound like Hades is going to be the next big bad that we're going to see have a big set based off of. If so, we would get a lot of Hades characters, and you could banish Hades Double Dealer into a bigger Hades. You already can banish him into Hades Infernal Schemer, which is a really good turn 5 play. If we get more options like this, we could see Hades Double Dealer getting better and better.
So next up is Ruby, and this is my kind of out there card that may make people scratch their heads on, but it's Ratigan, Very Large Mouse. Ratigan is a 5 ink uninkable character that costs 3 strength and 3 willpower with 2 lore. He is a storyborn and villain. His ability is called This Is My Kingdom, and it says, when you play this character, exert chosen opposing character with 3 strength or less. Choose one of your characters and ready them. They can't quest for the rest of this turn. So, its stats is not the best. Its lore for 5 cost is about average for Ruby, and there's no keywords to really help it out. However, it can exert about 70% of the characters in the game with the first part of its effect. Then, if you ready a character you can control, you can challenge that character. Use it with the newly released Goofy Super Goof to really gain the lore, or even Shere Khan to keep the challenge train going. And as we see more and more cards come out that want to wait to quest so they don't get banished before their effect goes off, like Belle Strange but Special or Alice Growing Girl, I believe Ratigan will continue to get better and better.
You also have this new character, Phil No Nonsense Instructor, who comes out on turn 4 right before Ratigan, and he doesn't want to be exerted at any time. He just wants to be passively gaining you lore from all your heroes and never really being played. Ratigan can be an immediate answer to that. And that could be a reason that I would consider playing Ratigan. We could get more and more things like that make Ratigan better as the sets go on. Then in Sapphire, a card that I see getting better in the future is Triton, Champion of Atlantica. Triton is a 9 ink Sapphire character who's inkable. He has 7 strength, 9 willpower, 3 lore. He has shift 6, and the ability Imposing Presence, which says opposing characters get -1 strength for each location you have in play. So for a 9 cost character, he does have really solid stats. He's got high strength and high lore. And the fact that he can shift in on turn 6 is really good. He has a couple of halfway decent shift targets, that being Triton Discerning King and Triton Young Prince. I just don't think we have the location support to make Triton Champion of Atlantica really work right now. But if we could get some locations that are going to work well and we get some good synergy with things like maybe John Silver, Greedy Treasure Seeker, more options like that to make your locations really work for you, then I could see Triton starting to shine. We just need some ways to make this location theme work better, because once he's in play, he'll be an absolute monster to get rid of, as well as your locations, because each opposing character having -1 strength is basically like saying that all of your characters and locations are getting resist +1. That's just super strong.
Lastly, we come to Steel, and I chose Little John, Resourceful Outlaw. Little John is a 6 ink character that is inkable and has 4 strength, 5 willpower, and 2 lore. He is a Floodborn and a hero with shift 4. His ability is called Okay, Big Shot, which says, while this character is exerted, your characters with bodyguard gain resist +1 and get +1 lore. So we continue to see the increase of bodyguards in these past few sets, and Ursula's return just increased the theme with some musketeers and more. And since he is a hero, we can just make a bodyguard deck and really just get the lore pumping as you add Phil as well. It could be an archetype that sees more and more play coming in future sets.
Well, that's all we got for today. What cards do you think have gotten better or gotten worse? What cards do you think are going to improve? Tell us in the comments below.
And be sure to follow us on social media to keep up to date on the latest Tactical Ink news. And also be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you can tune in for a new episode of Tactical Ink.
See you next week.